You are being recorded. Welcome, Jeremy, off to you.
Dun. What a sneaky motherfucker that was. You're being recorded. Here you go. Welcome everybody. We're basically here just to help do some Q&A about this design studio thing and talk about design systems as being sort of a really powerful enabler of both the learning journey as well as help getting folks into practice, right? So practice can be a big hump. So there's something about having a repeatable process that helps get folks right into oh, I'm just doing that thing over and over and over again. There's nothing weird or particularly new about this, but that's the hypothesis, at least. This is the vibe. I think we should just get started with impromptu rather than having me sit here and stand around and talk at folks, because I can do that for absolutely ever. So what's the vibe, Joe?
I also wanted to come in. We've studied some patterns as facilitators, including facilitation of LS structures in the wider range of facility, like art of hosting, whatever your facilitation means is. We've studied patterns. It also comes from knowing how to be confident as a facilitator, but also requires, okay, these structures are for your plug and play, but what's your essential core? And I know Jeremy has his own design system. I have my own design system. Over the years, we have formulated, and that becomes our core when it comes to organizing people in a and empowering them in a self-organizing way. At the end of the day, liberating structures are all doing that, right? But how do we stay true to ourselves as facilitators, as designers, in the way that we actually bring people together, right? And we are hoping that these design systems, unique to ourselves, are your playground when you consider the most complex situations and things like that. So we'll introduce our flavor to it, and we also will invite you as part of the end of the cohort, perhaps, create your own framework and see how it happens and stay true to it, stay authentic to it, and be the awesome rockstar designer you are born to be, right? It's not just about facilitating. It's like staying true to your design and a design in a way that it's actually liberates creative freedom. So that's our inspiration. We want everybody, my mission and goal in life is even the 3-year-old should be able to facilitate their own conversation. How do we give them the tools? How do we give them the processes? How do we make sure that they understand that they are in power of how they want their conversations to go? That said, welcome. And awesome. Thanks for joining us. And we said impromptu. It's 5 minutes past. One thing I would want to do is send you out into breakouts. And who are you as a designer is the question. Who are you as a designer? Assign automatically. It's been a while. I've done breakouts. Auto close. You'll have about 6 minutes to share and 60 seconds to wrap up. Sounds good? You'll be 2 in each. Awesome. Have fun and come back with an identity as a designer. Bye-bye. Oh, I think you should have to click. Click, click, click buttons. Hi, Van. Welcome. Do you want to say hello? Yeah. Recording again. Just a quick, what kinds of designers have emerged in this space? I know between four of us, we had a bioregional designer, we had a material visionary, puzzle maker designer, we had, what was your social designer? And I'm a more creative, holistic, integral designer, multidimensional. Like in my designs, I'll have a meditation, I'll have breathing, I'll have all the woo-woo stuff like flute playing and all of that for visions to come through. So we have 4 flavors already, but I wanted to get a quick sense of like what kind of guardrail designer. Awesome. I love guardrails. Keeps the environment safe, right? What other designers do we have in the room? And then we'll do a quick another round of impromptu on a different question. Come on, you all. Unmute yourself.
My definitions are pedestrian
transition
now.
designer.
Yeah, that's good on you. Okay, you named it. I was about to say I can't think of anything pithy or interesting like that, but okay, transition designer. Yeah.
There you go, transition designer. Others?
I'm a temporary employee who guides people up the mountain, but I'll only do it once or twice.
Yeah, the Sherpa designer. the occasional, what is occasional? Awesome, thank you, Keith.
Contextual, that came up in our conversation as well.
Contextual designer. Hi, Steffi. Hi, Anya. Any thoughts? We're going to kick off the second round, and this is going to be short, the second round.
Hit it.
Hit it. So this time you will have 3 minutes and the question, and with a 60-second timer, who are you as a facilitator? That's your second question. I'm opening the rooms. I should probably say,
Could you repeat the question again?
who are you as a facilitator? So we had round 1, who are you as a designer? Establish your identity as a designer. And now, who are you as a facilitator?
Thank you.
Jeremy, you don't have to go. You are all by yourself, so you can stay here. Opening the
Cool.
rooms, you'll have about 3 minutes with each other and 60-second timer. Quick on your feet and come back. Thank you. Hi. You're on mute.
Every time. So who are you as a facilitator, Joe?
I'm an intuitive facilitator.
I'm a lovingly abrasive facilitator. No?
You are a lot abrasive. So the way that I want to take this is basically once we establish our own definitions, who we are, that's going to inform the frameworks that we actually believe in, right? And then
Cool.
liberating structures are going to bring those pieces together by, like, after we know who we are, then you can use liberating structures based on the context, based on the space, based on the scenario for the people, and liberating structures themselves gives us creative freedom of how to put things together. That's all. But essentially, it's finding ourselves in the way we facilitate. So that's how, like, giving them the teaser of what that means.
Dope.
So I was thinking more around, because this is what we talked as well. Like I hope you don't think that I'm going off of the script. And Oh my God, we are recording, so it's all on.
It's all fine. This is working out loud. This is working out loud. This is game tape. This is game
Yes.
tape.
And also, you and I have not come together in the design of the session completely.
Yeah,
So just pulling.
exactly.
I still want to do
We're
your site. Go ahead.
this is freestyle. We're playing fast and loose. Like you're a world class pianist. I'm a world class bass player. So we just jam. It's good. We all know the scales. We're in the same key. It's fine.
Oh, I don't think I know the scales, but I'll go with the analogy.
Yeah.
But cool.
Cool. It sounds like it's a great line. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Sweet.
the third question I would want to ask is, what are the fields they want to play in? Where do they want to be known? Your spheres of influence, where do they want to be known? So this is basically from a relationship standpoint. Relationship to the field, relationship to consider all the relationships. That's how I mean that. So that will be the third impromptu. And then we can go into, I'll let you lead, go into the celebrity interview you wanted to do.
Yeah, I didn't come up with any questions, so it'll
I'll ask
definitely
the
be much more
questions.
of a
That you
visual.
set it up and then I can ask the question. I'm good
Okay.
with on my feet questions all the time. I just made these questions. I said like, intuitive facilitator. That's what. Yeah. And I'm a creative designer and intuitive facilitator.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, you set up the celebrity interview and then I'll ask questions.
Great.
Welcome. So, who are we as a facilitator? Who are you as a facilitator? Jeremy said, what did you say, Jeremy? You are
lovingly abrasive facilitator.
He's a
Joe is who are you?
I'm an intuitive facilitator. So I just flow along with the field. It's like, what's needed? I make up stuff as I go in facilitation. But I'll have a structure and things. That's where my creative designer comes into. Cool. Simona, I'm the one that creates. I'm disruptor facilitator, dude. Like I really love disruptors. Helicopter view for Yannick. Thank you.
Grand Inquisitor.
Grand Inquisitor. I love these identities we are claiming. Who else is in the room? Quiet facilitators? Is that what we have in the room? Silent facilitators?
I have never identified as a facilitator. I always think of myself, because of liberating structures or whatever, we change the rules.
Yeah.
And the only people who change the rules are the leaders. The only chance you have to change the rules, if you take at least temporary leadership.
Yeah. So, yeah. I love definitions because I think definitions give us a way to measure how we are progressing and also create the outcomes, because those are the identities. So therefore, we introduced you. Who are you as a designer? Who are you as a facilitator? Now, my third question to you, final round, is where do you want to play? What domains do you want to play? Who do you want to play with? So relationship with, it's about relationships, right? Relationship to yourself. We've already established that. Designer, facilitator. Facilitator is relationship to the people participating, however you want to call it, or entities. And then now, where do you want to play? So this is setting context and also really arriving. That's your home. That's your playground. That's where you are 100% comfortable. So think that question through while I set out the breakouts. I'm going to let you be in the same breakouts so it's easier. And you will now have only 2 minutes. Where do you want to play? Just get zoned in. Thank you. And you'll have 60 seconds to wrap up. See you soon. Jeremy, you're staying with me. Cool. See how I did that? I gave them a lot of time because we were just doing the brains need to start working, right? And then we brought in the debrief, we brought few examples to be inspired from. The second question was a similar question, like it was an adjacent question. And, you know, it was just a switching a little bit role, right? That is, designer is planning, facilitator is in the moment, what happens. And then we brought in few, I didn't take all examples, but some examples. And then the third one is complex, but I've kept the people together. So there is that friction of not knowing each other. So it's just jumping right into the most difficult domain question. So, and then after the third round, we'll just do a debrief as to, can you put a bow, as if, like, you know, wrap this up for yourself. Like, do you see yourself?
Oh.
Can you see yourself in this? And then we'll step into liberating structures.
Sweet.
Again, I'm just, as I said, creative designer. We've created the design this morning, the design string with you. And then intuitive facilitator, like, what does this group mean, or where are we heading? And then just going with that flow.
Whip it up.
Yeah. I also
Whip
want
it
to
up,
acknowledge
Joe.
this is the space that we've already set the intention. It's a teaser taster. It's a free flowing. So that's, I have the liberty to do this. Sometimes we don't have the liberty to do this. And, you know, how do I still maintain my creative facilitation or creative designing and intuitive facilitation while there is still structure? So those are the questions I would consider going into spaces. And I said all of this for the recording for others to hear. What is the process?
Exactly. You get the behind the scenes, right? This is like the director's cut, right?
Yeah, this is the whole methodology or the method acting or whatever you want to call, like, what is my process?
Before these nerds come back, I also want to cover the content with you as well.
Yeah.
So, like, where do you want to be known?
Oh, I want to be known in all relationships, strengthening, building trust, a collaborative, relationship oriented. That's my zone. It's with systems. I'm again holistic, right? Like systems, relationships, and individual empowerment. Like anywhere, I'm a facilitator for all of those. And I keep it wide because I need entertainment. I like variety.
And novel context.
And no, I'm an innovator, sorry. Hello, welcome back. So, do you see yourself in your fields doing what you do best, you're born to do? Yeah? Yeah? Who do you see yourself with? So, unmute yourself. Who do you see yourself with? Just few people. Who are your peeps? Who are your folks? Who belongs to you? Who do you belong to? That's a deep question, but who are your peeps?
Yeah, for me, it's digital builders and physical builders, right at that intersection.
Awesome. Digital fit, the bridge between the ethers, both ethers, internet ethers and people.
Exactly. Yeah, and bringing the two together. Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you. Next.
What's the question again?
Who do you see? Who are your peeps in your domain? Who are your peeps?
One thing for me, I find that people can be anywhere or working in any domain, but it's the ones that are deeply feel or are deeply know and feel and are keen to make a transition.
Oh. I totally resonate with that. Like, I want passionate people who want to do something, starting first step inside and taking the first step inside and then moving the needle forward. Awesome. So that was impromptu networking. That was my take on impromptu networking in the way that I wanted to do in this particular time and space. I'm going to transition off to you, Jeremy. Over to you.
Word. So the next game on the docket is going to be this celebrity interview. So Joe's going to field some questions, or hit me with us with some questions. Who's our celebrity in this context, actually?
Let's set some
Am I the
guidelines.
celebrity?
So if you are at a place where you are, okay, we've just played, right? Who are you as a designer? Who are you as a facilitator? What is your playing field? And who are your peeps? If all these do not gel or do gel, both sides of the spectrum, you have a clear view, you are our celebrity. You do not have a clear view, you are our celebrity. Does that make sense?
Thanks.
So who's our celebrity?
And so,
Bye,
I'm
Simona.
totally celebrity.
You are totally a celebrity.
Oh yeah.
But before we have Jeremy talking and talking and talking, and he can talk for a long time, I do want to make sure we have other examples or other people who are wanting to just come play. Just let us ask you questions. We want to be curious with you. Happy to play. Leave. Was that okay? You have to unmute yourself. Okay. Any other take? Oh, there you go. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, what kind of celebrity are you? Are you all figured out, clear, you know exactly what you're doing, or you want to figure it out in front of everybody? What kind of which celebrity are you?
Yeah, the latter. I actually don't even know what liberating structures is. I don't even know how I came across this. I just sort of popped in, and so I'm learning on the go.
Cool. Jeremy?
This is the
I have
vibe.
love for you.
This is the vibe. Yeah, this is proper. So you are exactly in the tradition, I think, of most of us, or at least in my tradition. How about that, Lev? Yeah.
Nice. Good company. Looks like.
Jeremy, you're on.
All right, let's go. So, I mean, you're talking about this design system, right? So, or design systems in general. And for me, what this does is two moves in particular. The first move is context, like by giving myself, well, no, the real first move is actually process, right? It's giving myself a repeatable way of like, what in God's name am I doing? If I'm following a process, then with each iteration, I can hone in on something that's sort of true, that works. And that process for me consists of, first and foremost, like my intake. What is the way in which I become familiar with the context that I'm operating in? And that I like to use these the P's that seem to be out there: the place, the purpose, the people, and the parameters, or like some of the specific constraints. Like I find with just knowing enough about that, I can barely know enough to not sound like a total idiot and offer something that makes sense for that context. So that's the primary move. Joe, you had another intake that I really loved.
Yes. So, Lev, the way that we are going to structure ourselves, self-organize ourselves, Jeremy stepped in saying, okay, I know what I do, my design systems, why we are here and things like that. And you are on the other spectrum. And this is your chance to bridge that gap, right? Like you can ask questions. You are given this context. I will step in with what I love about the way that I design or I create my own ways of facilitating, if that makes sense, is I have what I call SPACE acronym. The scenario or situation that I'm heading into. P is essentially what are my perimeters or parameters, what are my conditions. A is actors that are involved. C are the constraints. Now I pay special focus on the constraints because those are like my guardrails. I don't wanna cross them because that changes the safety of the, or why am I struggling with words? That impedes the safety of the system that I'm operating in. And E is experience. What kind of experience I want to create? Now this SPACE acronym I've created for myself. Nobody told me. I find one fine day, I'm like, I am somebody who loves spaces, and I open up in space, I close in space, I hold space. So everything I do is about space. And I was like, I need to sit down and understand who am I as, as a designer. Like, what is my core in that? So that's another example of where we start with what we start, and then to figure out the scenario and situation, the invitation that we think when we come into liberating structures, the point focus is like, have your invitation be impactful so people know exactly what they're coming into, right? So that's designing the space. So like that, you take each of those elements and then put together. What question do you have?
Right.
What are you?
I can relate with your desire to create acronyms. My friend and I, we've been focusing for a couple of years on creating a prototype for a regenerative village, eco-village style. And so we were thinking of the name, and we were like, well, what we really need is a plan. So the acronym became PLAN, and then we kind of had to figure out what it actually meant. But we came to participant-led alliance network, which sort of barely makes sense or coherence anyway, but a little bit redundant. But yeah, I could see how just creating the name of something like that in itself is creating the design, of the space within which you hold space. So that's really cool. Yeah. So I guess for me, there's so many things that I'm doing that it becomes a challenge to even really fully acknowledge what it is that I like. I know there's some overarching themes, like an umbrella theme of, okay, everything I'm doing is regenerative. And then there's holding space as in a healing capacity, holding space in a designing building capacity. I've never really thought of all those things as design in themselves, but of course they are. So yeah, I guess sometimes I'm challenged by, I don't know if this is a question, more like a statement, and maybe just seeking some kind of clarity around the shifting identity roles. I have like 5 different projects I'm working on, and they're all relatively like regenerative, right? But they're all very different as far as the actual operations go. So I have to wear a lot of different hats. Like I run a fruit selling business, but I'm also working on an eco-village, but I'm also working with a regenerative organization, helping people save money on taxes, doing regenerative things. So there's a lot of different spaces to hold. So anyway, I'm excited to be learning more about how to design those spaces.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Keith, for taking notes as well. Like I have to focus less now on taking the notes. Thank you so much. Jeremy, any questions you have?
Less of a question, more of just a thing that might unite those different contexts. And that is, for me, Keith brought up the aspect around intention, or about transition. And to me, that transition is intention. Like that's the killer app that I think we're trying to spread as far as wide as possible, is how do we operate with a high degree of intentionality. There's certainly no guarantees in the design space that we get what our intentionality is, but are we at least starting from like, this is the vibe that we're going for, or are we just sort of importing in all of the expectations that are being that we sort of have received as programming from the context? And I think there's an active question around that programming, and what's the intention of what we're trying to accomplish now. And whatever we pursue, I think with that high degree of intentionality, that seems like the vibe. At least we give ourselves a shot of moving in something that is more of our choosing than inherited.
Yeah, totally. What comes to my mind is like alignment. For me, to be able to have my intention aligned with what is the purpose that I'm wanting to serve or in service of, makes a whole bunch of, like, I can sleep well in the night if I am aligned, if I go in with an intention, right? And whatever happens, because you have to surrender to emergence in that way. So yeah, I'm going to take all of us off spotlight. I want to invite, if anybody has a question for three of us, please bring it in, and then we will move into closing up.
Yeah, there's something I would like to also foreground for Lev and for everybody, that is like the basic blueprint for my design system, or the design system that I think is sort of embedded in liberating structures. And like the most basic component of that, and I really see this as a shape, and that shape to me is a square. The has the vibe of support, and that is around interaction. So all liberating structures have an embedded set of instructions around how folks should interact. And that's sort of the combination of those design elements around how groups are formed, with the assumption that they should probably be pretty small, how time boundaries are done, with some assumption that they should be smallish as well as how participation is distributed, with the sort of implication that it should be distributed. So we take those three design elements and I sort of compress them down into one container concept, being interaction. And so like a huge portion of design is around, okay, where's my place, and like what's the pattern of interaction that I think is going to be helpful for this context. With or without the pattern of interaction, the next design element that I think is fundamental is really around that the inquiry. So based on wherever we're at in our journey together, what's the right question for right now? And while every liberating structure has an instruction for like question or invitation, there are some structures that more specifically foreground a question than other structures. And while some structures more specifically foreground really that pattern of interaction. So if we have and I think I often represent the question with a circle, because as far as I can tell, like it's about the question. That's kind of the point. That's the thing that drives the interaction in any direction. And last but not least, is the artifact. The design elements of materials and space, and how is it that we capture the content of our conversations, so that we have an artifact that helps us to remember, but also helps us to export our thinking to the wider stakeholder context. And some of liberating structures, while every liberating structure has an instruction around materials and space, some liberating structures much more foreground that artifact, whether it's critical uncertainties and the 2x2 matrix, or it's the visual sense-making frame of the eco-cycle and its movement of development, or whether it's the nested holes of panarchy, or even the Excel spreadsheet, the bulletin board of open space technology. It is these artifacts that really make those structures truly thing and help to organize the time, attention, and energy. So I think in terms of what liberating structures are and how I use them systematically to design, I'm really trying to figure out, just come up with a recommendation for how I think interaction would be most adequately organized. What's the right question for right now? And what's the artifact that we're going to use to sort of capture and catalog our thinking so that we can send it out to the wider context? And, you know, in my practice, my attention to each of these different elements is shifted. I would offer that if you're starting out, start with just the interaction patterns. They're incredibly durable. You can't screw them up, and they require next to no skill to execute. Once you get a feel for those things, you will realize how important that question is. So then, you know, try and whether the only thing you ever do is 1, 2, 4 all. Do that all day, every day. 1, 2, 4 all the things, and then offer yourself then you'll find a natural opportunity to go, hey, some questions are better than other questions at specific times. And that sort of opens up that second category. And then at some point, you will find yourself in a group that is so goddamn big that you must have some visual sense-making frame to ensure coherence on the conversation, or you must have some way of exporting that conversation to the wider audience. And so those to me are these, and I represent the artifacts with triangles because they are very goal-like. They are a specific, you can think of them as a specific deliverable for a conversation. So that's sort of my understanding of design system in a nutshell and liberating structures.
Yeah, when Jeremy brought this to my attention, I kind of use liberating structures that way, but like I have my own way of organizing them, right? Categorizing them. And when he brought, it was like, duh, that makes so much sense. Like of these 33, like there are interactive elements like that, which focus, not saying they don't focus the other aspects of it, they just highlight it more. I have my own way of building an interaction to commitment. Like I need any interaction to go into an actionable space, which is a fundamental principle of liberating structures also. So when I play, now if you're interested in how to be a designer, how to be your own facilitator, like create your strength, your core, and be inspired by a design system that, between Jeremy and I, we'll bring a couple of samples of design systems and find your own design system. This will be the cohort for you. This is why we wanted to do it. We wanted you to walk away with your own set of like, I'm known, I function like this, I will be like this. So something that you can be more confident, something that, most often facilitation is like, I don't know who I'm in the space, I don't know how to handle conflict. Like all of those things, once you know your core, like those will just be reaction, proactive, preventive kind of interactions than actually, what's at stake, right? So that's why my passion is I want to see more and more facilitators, more and more designers / facilitators who are strong in handling the most difficult situations in the moment. So that makes my life easy. If you can facilitate your own conversations, I don't have to do it. I just have to show up, right? We will stay a couple of minutes, but this is a wrap up. One last question I would want to leave you with is, what is that one thing you're learning from here that you would want to shift into your own environment, into your own space? It could be anything from these last 47 minutes we've been together. What have you learned about yourself, or what is one thing that will stick with you as you step outside here? and voice and chat and all other means welcome. I don't do telepathy. My brain is busy right now to receive anything, but I would love some voice and verbal. Hi, Keith. Oh,
I can, do you want voice something right now? So
you
I'm
were
thinking,
you unmuted, so
Oh.
I thought, or it was
Okay.
unmuted. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I can always say something. I think I can match Jeremy word for word. And yeah, I think what I'd like to do, particularly with returning, I'm a consultant, so I have clients, and some have returned multiple times, and I'm like, you should be done with me, is my typical thing. You should know how to design. But if they would take the ecocycle and place their repertoires along the ecocycle, so I could see, well, what have you used? What are you thinking about using? What, whatever, to get their portfolio on a map. I have to guess what they're comfortable using. And most people early on reach a plateau. They'll use Triz and 1, 2, 4 all and impromptu networking and some stuff. And maybe they go beyond, but they get a go-to list. But I actually want to know. And I think of maestros as people who have a big repertoire, if not, not just liberating structures, but whatever is in there, keep track of what you can use. So it's brilliant how you've invited people to visualize their repertoire. And I will use it in design groups when I can with clients.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Empowerment. Empowerment. Thank you.
Well, it's funny. This is a tradition that I've sort of picked up because I did it much less elegantly in my initial notebooks around liberating structures. I just wrote them all out and like put a different number according to like how familiar I was to them. And what that enabled me to do was to be much more intentional about my learning. It made it very explicit what I had left to learn and could orient my attention to what's an opportunity that is presenting itself for me to try this thing for the very first time.
And I'm completely on the other side, Jeremy. Is like I have the card deck of liberating structures, and I sit with a problem that I'm thinking on, or like what is wanting to be emerged here, and then I'll pull a card out of the structure, and I will go study and understand like what elements of this structure need to come together, and what are the gaps this structure doesn't provide, and I'll fill the gaps with other forms of facilitation in that structure, and then totally break the rule. I love breaking rules. I love going off on scripts because of the intuitive. But I want rebel. Like I want rebellion that leads to revolution. That's what I want. But thank you, welcome. Well, I hope you had fun. We'll invite a couple more voices. As I said, we will be here for another 9 minutes. The session was 45 minutes, but we had the 15-minute hangout after party if you wanted to stay with us. But
Yeah, I kind of want to share what I've been doing, but I don't need to. I mean, maybe you've seen it already, but I'd be happy to spend a little time there, what I've been working on.
I would love to see. I don't get to be in
Game of the
spaces
game.
as much. Bye, Vor. See you again. Is the recording still okay, Keith?
Oh yeah, no, I oh my gosh, that's great. I never remember to do that kind of thing. Yeah, but I adore what you've done, and I love your style. I end up being, organizing things more and talking more, and so I never get a chance to, or rarely get a chance to just pop in and see what people are doing. And because Nancy and I are writing this book, the online book, we kind of really need to know what people are doing and thinking, and particularly there's the repertoire face to face, which some people never picked up anything before the pandemic. So they only know online. And so I'm trying to do a dual track, like what's going on with face-to-face and online practice and amplify both. So what I could show you if you have a little time is just the walk through what I do with design groups, which is my system. Yeah, and I'm co-host. And I don't know who else is here or if they want to be here, but I'm just gonna go for it. So give me a second to go find something that I actually want to share. This is, I think I'm going to use a version, a Miro board from a college, a PhD program in complexity science. So, but it's kind of what I've been doing with clients, but it doesn't have client information on it. So just give me another
And if you
second.
see client information, keep it to yourself. You are signing a dotted line.
No, the only, you know, I don't know if you've worked for private organizations, but the number of things that people want to keep quiet that are so boring, no one should ever care,
Exactly.
are really quite amazing. Okay, I'm getting there.
I'll fill the gap a little bit here. I facilitate a whole bunch of processes, structures, things like that in online collaborative communities like Permaculture Collab and Global Regeneration Collab and things like that. And everything we call is copyleft. Basically, there is nothing confident. Like everything is out in the open, transparency and things like that. And I thrive in that because it takes mental agony from my head to like, oh, who's seen what and what I need to protect. I'm like, if you really
Well,
wanted it to be, then don't bring it out in the open in the first place. Give it to yourself.
Interestingly, one of the most secretive, and they had good reasons to be, because the private sector would copy anything that they produced. We would do something like the ecocycle, and they go, "How did you learn that? How did you know that about us?" And you could just see in the pattern of their interaction, you could anticipate what they were doing or not doing or thinking or not thinking, up to a point that made them uncomfortable, that you must have done some surveillance on us.
Yeah.
Well, I don't need to, I'm going to screen share, but you can just not pay attention to me when I'm in. I put a link to and then you can follow me once we're in Miro. If you want to just click on my thing, on my icon, you'll just end up having to follow me. So this is the 3-step thing, and it ends with the client in pairs. Usually I have a design group, and it's not easy if you've tried to get design groups with your clients. They don't want to spend time on that. Most of them kind of want you to do it, and I refuse to do it. And I'm in a position where I can refuse to do it. And even in the contracting stage, I'll kind of go, well, you can make this an option, but my enthusiasm is going down if you don't want to do a design group. And maybe I don't want to do it, which is terrible business practice if you're relying on this for your income, but okay for me. So the 3 things once you have a design group that we end up doing. The first one is to identify what's purposeful, what do they care about, and one of the easiest ways to do that is through activities. And Fisher has been really good at generating this particular list that I'll share with you. And then the second thing, which is something that'll end up in the online book, I think, is this engagement spidergram. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's inspired, just like what's going on with you and your interaction already. Like it reveals some of the goals. And then the last thing is the traditional, I guess I'll call it traditional, the matchmaker. And it's very functionally oriented, whereas the spidergram is more relationally oriented. Like the matchmaker is, well, what are you trying to do? And then pick based on these short phrases that describe the liberating structure. So first part, and this is again a PhD class is doing some things, and I don't know who Frank and Sandra are, so I'm not revealing anything. But here, there's some steps. Review this list. Think about your group that you're a subset of, your larger community in which they're going to be interacting at some event that's coming up. Select kind of the top 3, just trying to make it easy way to go in there. What are you trying to do? It could be addressing an inequity. It could be just trying to get to an action. It could be any of these things. And then each individual gets to think about what that is. So that's pretty straightforward. Second thing is, okay, think about your last interaction, and what's the pattern over time. So give me some idea by rating on what you expected versus what you're getting in this interaction. On the connection level, is trust increasing or decreasing? Are you discovering something about yourself through the interaction? Is there some form of authorship, where new options are coming into view? So these 3 things, the new options, the connection, and the context clarity, are what I want. That's what I want for the client. It's usually what they want too. It may be a more expanded set of things. They may just say, well, they want the new option, or they want some action, but really they want all of these things. So what this does is give them a sense for themselves of where they are beyond what they're trying to do in their next interaction. Are you with me? Any thoughts about that before I go to the next thing?
Excellent. I think most of what I do is also in totally. It's flowing for me.
Yeah. Okay. And then the matchmaker, we've just made it a little easier maybe than using the cards or how to do it in an online version. I like the cards. I don't use them. And I don't use the app, and I don't use any of the things anymore if I'm designing something for myself. But I've had some years to practice. But here again, it's the read these handy dandy descriptions, which aren't perfect. I add a dozen new ones down here at the bottom, which a lot of cases, it's my version of what they make possible. So turn around a pattern of negative gossip, and you know what that is if you've used it. But I'm making up my own because there isn't any published thing. Generate and share ownership for strategy with all voices. I don't even use full sentences here. Anyway, you get the idea that they pick them without reading all the stuff, right? All of the detail. You're just picking things. And then if they want to get into detail, you can pick any of the ones and go read some linked material, which is at varying degrees of specificity. And then last, what I've been doing lately is, okay, try your own hand. Pick somebody else in this design group and string. Throw together some sequence. And so this W1 here was a combination. The last group I was with, I think there were 10 people, 5 different groups, and 1 or 2 of them had drawing together to start. And it was a big meeting. They're working on a regenerative culture transition. They've been doing it for years and getting tighter, harder, not getting very far. So like, okay, that's pretty bold. I like, it doesn't matter what I think, but you could definitely start with any of them. So drawing together sounds great. I think you're bold. And the most I did was I didn't really do anything. So we looked at all of theirs and pulled together some sequences that made sense, which weren't any of the paired sequences, but any of the pair sequences, but they made sense and they built on past work that I'd done with the client. So basically, that's a way that a 3-step thing that I'll usually do in 1 or 2 meetings with a design group. And then for each activity, they sign up and co-lead. So I'm right behind you, or my partner, that co-consultant, is right behind them, but they're co-leading the activity, and they may just give the invitation. They may work through the process if they're more the steps if they're more confident, but basically you get the idea.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Keith.
this is a great vibe.
Yeah, Jeremy and I, we designed, we were supposed to go on floor or go live today for a 6-week, 7-week cohort. And we didn't have as much participation. And so we pulled the whole cohort out and we said, we are going to do a taster session to actually see if anybody is actually interested in knowing anything about design systems. But as we sat through, the most important decision, I think, and I love that we were able to come together on that, is week 1 is about learning, week 2 is about doing. So learning by experiencing some of those interactive structures, and week 2 is coming together in collaboration with others. Again, to your point, we are standing back, but we are standing back of you. Like we are there to support you and become the collaborators, become the facilitators also. What I struggled in participating and leading other cohorts for liberating structures is it's just about teaching by experiencing. But I've always felt that, oh, I've never really given them the space that they need to practice them. And this is a good, safe container that you can try your shit with me and I will be totally fine with and that's the only way we are going to have to learn, is by, experimentative and experience we cover it by going through the structures, but we don't experiment enough with who am I in the way that I instruct. Like my instructions are short, just fast. They'll come fast and get into action, right?
You have skills. I like your skills a lot. I've tried to communicate it, and the two of you have very different skills.
Very.
One thing I do with Jeremy every once in a while, I get a little gruff with people. It's like, no, that's the bad habit. Stop that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't talk too much at the beginning. Don't over specify. Really, you want ambiguity or lots of right answers. We're not asking you to find an optimal solution. All of the things that are just reflexes.
Yeah.
They're just everything we learned up to this point is wrong. Stop it.
Unhelpful.
Or something along those lines. And so I will do that once in a while. I'll jump in a little bit, but mostly once you've been in with a group for a while, in a design group, people pick up on it. They can do it. They can fall off the horse too, but generally, I think it comes pretty quickly. Yeah.
And
Well,
I was gonna say, I actually honor. Thank you, Keith, for seeing the skills. I actually honor my energy and aura. I am an injector of joy, like my name JYO. I have dyslexia, so I introduce myself as Dyslexic Joy, and I live by that. And my facilitations have my energy in it, and based on that, I design. Based on that, I bring in. Sometimes I have a silent, quiet, grounding energy too. So depending upon where what is, that's hence the intuitive facilitator, right? Like depending upon that, I play, and I give myself the permission to play. Like for me, I'm experiencing myself too, and it's like so much fun dancing with so many elements. So yeah, and great collaborators like Jeremy. This is the first time we've not even sat down and like, oh, let's agree to the design. Like we didn't even do that. We just jumped right in. First time. So Jeremy, you wanted to say something and I interrupted you.
Yeah. So there's there's two things. So one of the things we hope to accomplish by foregrounding design system in the context of training is, number one, like, the common theme that I see through sort of both all of the sort of things that we sort of put on the table, whether it's the spaces or space from Joe, or whether it's the 4 Ps that I've landed on, or this intake that you've got there, is like, so our first move is to understand our context. And something cool happens when we start to use that in the presentation of the structures as well, is that it helps to ground them in some realistic scenario of like, okay, in response to this specific scenario, this is the scene that we're sort of playing in, and that's why we might make the choice to use this structure. And by repeating that with every single structure that we play with, like, we're trying to sort of ground it in an imaginal space. And the flip side, as participants come into this second week of, all right, now it's your turn to try, it's really about preparing your own scene. And okay, whether that's an imaginary scene or something from the past, or actually grounded from your lived experience in your context, it's not so much as prepare to host the structure, but think about the context, a context, and what's the structure that you would pick to make use of in that context. So, like, just getting very trying to really reduce the cycle time between first touch or interaction with these things, grounded in reality, and make use of it your first time. One of the things that really helped me to learn was the fact that I had this silly rule, which was I went go to a meetup with Barry and Christian. I would go to a meetup and I would have to try something that they showed me the next day at work. And that put me in all types of meetings being like, hey, I've got this weird rule, I need to try this thing. And that helped make me very non-threatening for the context, right? And it was because I was just some idiot who they were happy to help give an opportunity to learn to. And yeah, so by using that thing, I'm really interested when I think about, as you foreground the selection matchmaker, like, what I would like to try out is, like, what happens when I intentionally divide the selection matchmaker up based on these 3 different buckets. So rather than pick one of 33, it turns into 3 choices of, all right, pick an interaction pattern, pick the right question for right now, and pick an artifact. It's funny, I've been sitting with this information for such a long time, but I was only at a dinner party, and this is how I roll, that I was playing around with the cards, and I started designing strings based on that. And I play tested 4 or 5 of them at this Limicon, this convention, a couple of weeks back. And pound for pound, each and every one of them slapped. Just very simple, 1 interaction, 1 question, 1 artifact. I think that there's a sort of minimum viable string that helps set people up in such a way that, like, really reduces the complexity of stringing down to, like, oh, I just take these things and I put them together and voila. So the hypothesis is that by grounding in context, reducing the cycle time from seeing and practice, and by sort of opening up the design space very early on, that we can give people a heightened sense of confidence to really continue learning and make that step into application.
I am gonna excuse myself because I have somebody else standing there, which would mean I think I should stop recording to keep the sanity of that record in place.